Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Laurie. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's like Pinky and the Brain. I mean, you have known me for, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 years. And yeah, it's the same thing over and over again. So we're just still trying to solve aging. I mean, with my most current venture, the idea is to try to put one place where uh, multi parties can meet. And also, I have kind of expanded my thinking. So when I started as a cell biologist, as you know, yourself, and we only looked at it from a mechanistic, aging as a mechanistic problem, which it certainly is. But I'm also looking at what other things we can do with long life, in the sense that mental well-being, mental health is being put into one bucket of longevity, well-being, and health. So that's what my current venture, which is behind me, is trying to do, is to not just discuss the biochemistry and biology of aging, but also the mental resilience and well-being that comes with it, that we should take with it, the health and well-being, the sustainability of the environment around you, etc., etc. Put it all together. Try to have one place where we can have these discussions, like yourself, that you are having, and others, and try to showcase where there are missing links, as in the sense that where we should be putting research spotlight, or venture capital funding, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we want to do. So if you go to the website currently, darwinlife.com, you'll see there are over 800 articles. We're just starting to collate those into some kind of research guide, and then ultimately we'll partner with other people to put guides for venture capitalists, guides for research funding and research directions. And again, kind of working with colleagues like yourself, we're just trying to put together everybody who is thinking in this area, as broad as people who are doing meditation, or people who are building assisted living facilities, or people who are doing economic policy for what happens after retirement, or how to retrain adults, all of it. So since you and I have been discussing over the last 13 years, I have just expanded from the cell to all the way to economic policy, and trying to gather as many people in all those different areas to come and help us tackle aging, absolutely. So rejuvenation and regenerative medicine, absolutely. But also then create a world where we all want to live for 200, 300, 400 years.
So just to go back briefly, I noticed that my mic channel was switched off when I was doing the intro. Your one was fine, so everyone heard your lovely voice. But just to redo the introduction, hey, welcome, it's Friday, that's lovely. This is Dr. Avi Roy, a very long-standing friend of mine, as you no doubt gathered, and a all-round brilliant chap who is focused on the science and now the broader cultural positioning and interventions for aging. And I think so. One of the big things I'm trying to do with this channel is to talk about the really impactful questions on a large scale. You know, things like um, extreme global poverty, things like existential and global catastrophic risks. And I think we can put aging in that category, in that it's a colossal cause of not only death, obviously aging related diseases overall are the leading cause of death in the world. If we categorize them all together, obviously there's many different factors there, um, but it's a huge cause of suffering. I mean, I'm only 30, but you know I'm still getting the occasional creaky joints, or a bit of a stiff back when I get up, and uh, I've got another, if you're not successful, then I've got another maybe 50 or so years of gradually declining mobility, cognition. Obviously, there are benefits that come with aging as well, experience, wisdom, so on and so forth. But I think one of the really important things with longevity is thinking about, which you seem to be doing, not just making us live longer, but increasing the quality of life so we get those benefits of aging without the massive harms.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely,
sorry,
absolutely. Um, yeah, if you would indulge me, I kind of want
please
to
do.
um, you know, show and tell, and you have seen
Go for it.
this, because you and I were developing this jointly a long time ago, and this is old, and this was quite popular, and the subsequent graphics that I'll show were quite popular, or became quite popular in Reddit as well. So I will share um, this screen, and you can put a spotlight on it if you would
Yeah,
like.
that's working nicely. So, a stealthy purpose of your visiting today is because we're trying to make sure all of this system works properly. We'll get to a bit of that stuff in after you've talked about this, but fortunately on my end, it's all looking good. The stream seems to be coming through fine, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, something that Laurie was changing, was trying to point towards. I just want to. So you never know what speed you are at unless it's in relation to something else. So so that's why I want to set the stage. I'm sure that people here are very aware, so this might be just preaching to the choir. But if you look at it in on the slide, 53% of mortality in 1900, and this looks very similar to other developed countries. Britain was slightly better at this time, but really this paints a picture of what the world kind of looked like in 1900s. Um, and and if you look at 53% of mortality was coming from infectious diseases. I know now that we are in the throes of COVID, we're very much aware of infectious diseases, but if you look realistically, even after this year's data sheet is tallied, it will look at the change between 1900 and 2100. I realize that infectious disease in PowerPoint has kind of got squished, but what it shows is that between in about 100 years, it went from 53% to less than 3%. And of course, you can see that the increase in heart rate and cancer. But what happened? So these are the mortality causes. Um, but we have successfully tackled one thing, which caused our demographics. This is from England and Wales, and you can see it tracks all the way from 1850, 1925, 75, and 2010. These are the census data. So on the left hand, on the y-axis, on the vertical axis, you have how many people survive, and on the horizontal axis, on the x-axis, you have the age at which the average person, or what percentage of population are dead by that age. So if you look at it, this is what 1850 looks like. All sorts
So
of childhood
you
mortality.
see a very steep drop there at the start as a lot of children die. Of course, death before the age of 5 was extremely common back then.
You see this dramatic shift where when by the time you reached in 1850, by the time you reached half of your population in England and Wales, remember, very wealthy countries. I mean, we're a very wealthy country, the world's greatest economy at that point of time. 50% of the population was dead before the age of 50. I mean, 20% of the population was dead before the age of 5. So, as Laurie pointed out, childhood mortality. But you can see this these three things. So I want to keep it quite tight. That's why I'm going through this, speeding through this. And Laurie
Sure.
is more than capable and probably far better than me at explaining these things. But you see, we that infectious disease rate that you saw went from 53% to 3% happened because we tackled much of this, which is through vaccines we were able to tackle. England and Wales representing much of the world at that time, and England being one of the wealthiest countries in 1850. By 2010, or actually even by like 1975, we're almost able to tackle almost all of the childhood mortality through vaccines, and then our society benefited from antibiotics. Our society benefited from uh, public health, public sanitation, all of those things, and that's where you see this massive increase in uh, survival rate into the middle age. And this right here, what you see, this horizontal line here, is between 1975 and 2010. is the true shift, is the big shift in older people surviving till older age. That happens because we have reduced smoking. That's one of the number one causes. We also have relatively good treatments against heart disease. Um, that has been one of the single biggest mover of people, in their late stage, as in the ages of older than 65, living for another 10, 11, 12, 15 years. So that has been a revolutionary change in that. So this is just in order to set the discussion. I just wanted to show where we have come. Now, just one quick thing before we proceed with the discussion. What
Mhm.
Laurie and I are talking about from, or what we started this conversation with, is that red bubble down there. So we what I have shown you so far is historical census undisputable data. And we know how we got here. We got here through biotechnology. We got here through regulations. We, but what we haven't been able to budge, and there is no evidence historically that we have been able to budge that, is um, the max mortality. Mean mortality, yes. Max mortality seems to be the same. What Laurie and I are talking about, what our discussion for however limited time we have today, and what I'm hoping that Laurie will bring lots of other guests, is how do we go to the next chapter, as Yuval Noah Harari calls Homo Deus. Um, so that's where our discussion will lie: is that how do we improve max mortality whilst keeping people at functioning at the, like, at a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old level, as in biologically. That's where we want to be. In addition to that, what the tools that I have gathered in my arsenal over time is also understanding how much mental well-being is a core part of that. If you are a if you have lived 150 years, but and also you're in a body of a 30 or a 40-year-old, certainly you can experience the world wonderfully. But we all, many of us, um, uh, have suffered from various forms of depression, and many forms of mental illness. We know that it might feel, even though we are in a young body, it might feel like, um, we have lived in this body for a very long time, and there's nothing more we would like than to just get it over with. So I think it's very important that we also deal and tackle that kind of disorder as well. So here is what we are trying to tackle in one little graph.
Very cool. Um, and yeah, as you're saying, we've achieved a stupendous amount, like absolutely incredible amount over the last century or so. But there seems to be a lot of intractability to increasing healthy life towards the end. Um, you get a few outliers, maybe living up to 120 or so, but the one's chance of living beyond 125 currently seems just about zero, even with best diet and exercise and all kind of lifestyle interventions. Um, so how do we start making that leap? What are the limits, the kind of hard limits imposed by evolution or our environment or whatever? And obviously we don't know all of them yet, but how do we start identifying them? And then how do we start tackling them?
Yeah. Again, I think we haven't prepped these questions, but you're
So yeah,
asking
yeah,
exactly the right way that we were going to go. So So I showed you the graph of what we die of today, but it doesn't take any genius to figure out what is the commonality between all of these. So Alzheimer's or dementia, lung disorders, which is classified as COPD, among other lung disorders, diabetes, and I'm talking about type 2 diabetes,
yeah.
and we're looking at, um, heart disease. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out. So on the vertical axis, you have the number of people per 100,000. Again, this is England and Wales data. And on the horizontal axis, you have the age at which people start dying from those disorders and the number of people. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out, oh, guess what? These diseases predominantly affect people who are 50 and older. Kind of like everybody is making a guess, or everybody knows that is the same thing happening with COVID right now. So when Laurie and I are talking about aging as a cause, this is what we're talking about. Now, certainly, what we have done over the last few years is try to tackle one disease at a time. So we have tried to tackle heart disease at a time. We have tried to tackle several of the cancers. We have tried to tackle diabetes. We have tried to tackle Alzheimer's completely unsuccessfully. We have tried to tackle COPD and the causes for COPD and other lung disorders. But what we are suggesting is that it doesn't take a genius to look at this graph and say, look, even if you have cancer researchers and cardiologists and endocrinologists, there is a commonality to this. And the commonality is how many times you're rolling the dice, and what kind of room are you playing in, and so forth and so on. These are just analogies. So what we want to do as biomedical scientists is try to actually uh, take it back, take your cells, your physiology, your biology back to what it would be like to be at a 30-year-old level. That's what we're trying to do, which instead of looking at the diseases, you look at the biological processes and you take it back. It is not so simple for psychological and psychiatric disorders, as in to just take it back, uh, because those, unlike these diseases, can affect many people at various age ranges. So that needs a more or deeper understanding. But certainly, looking at these diseases, you can take it back. There's another graph that I want to show, but I don't have that with me here, which maybe Laurie can post it later, which shows the amount of money and the amount of lifespan years we can add by tackling aging, the underlying process of aging, instead of tackling any one of these diseases. And it's exponentially more than tackling any one of these diseases at a time.
So I think
So,
that's something that's particularly worth talking about is the fact that each of these does have literally billions a year spent in R&D, and rolling back the symptoms of it, trying to remove plaques from the arteries once they've already formed, trying to remove tau proteins from the brain once they're there, though exactly what role they play is obviously ambiguous, but we'll move that aside. Trying to undo sensitivity changes in insulin, sensitivity of the beta cells, is extremely difficult once the damage has happened. It's kind of maybe analogous to uh, going into an old building that you can't, that's listed that you can't mess with, and trying to gradually repair it by piece, patching in with original mortar and very carefully. At some point, it's just going to crumble. Whereas if you're able to rebuild whole sections of it, then we can start seeing a meaningful improvement, or even better, prevent the damage from occurring in the first place. And that's what I believe is, I'm not an expert, you are, but that's what is trying to be done with these interventions to address aging as a more unified and fundamental problem, rather than addressing the many various symptoms of it.
absolutely, absolutely. And lo and behold, I found the graph.
Oh,
So
excellent.
this was published by Richard Miller in the Milbank Quarterly, and I've just readapted his data to just make this graph a little bit easier to understand. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Is that, and considering that an average woman, at least in the developed world, living to 81 years, a cure for cancer, according to Richard Miller's calculation, shows that it would add an additional average average population, it would add another 2 years. Average population curing heart disease would add another 4 years. Curing cancer, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes all together adds another 16 years. But if you slow down the rate of aging in health span, which is healthy lifespan, it would add another 33 years for slowing it down even for the slightest bit. So Laurie talked about the amount of money that goes into cancer or heart disease or type 2 diabetes, but it also isn't really having the kind of benefit that we would like to have. We have been able, as I showed you in the graph previously, to increase mean age of death, but that is mainly because of being able to do things like reduce childhood mortality almost completely to zero, having antibiotics and good public sanitation, public health access, and
Reduction in
also
violent deaths, of course.
yeah, violent deaths certainly, and also the reduction of smoking across all of the developed world at least is why we have been able to do that. What requires for us to go to the next step is certainly a considered effort in biotechnology.
And that's what you're trying to build along with a bunch of other bright people, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm no longer a practicing scientist. I'm just an organizing scientist trying to bring together people like yourself. So yeah, I mean, it is the scientists and engineers and entrepreneurs. What we are trying to do is to give them a forum, provide them a stage, and point out the problems. I mean, when I come on next time and when we have more time, we can talk about the nitty gritty problem. For example, um, as a scientist and as anybody, when you're trying to tackle a problem, the first thing you try to do is to define what the problem is. So now that we have kind of defined that aging is a problem, what is aging in itself? Professor Maria Blasco, who is the lead cancer researcher in Spain, put out a wonderful paper in 2014 called The Hallmarks of Aging that kind of highlighted the 9 things that go wrong within us that cause that are the creators of the aging and degradation at the cellular level. And so then we have a way to measure it, but we really haven't got the tools and we really don't have the biomarkers. So it's as if we are playing a game globally called aging, except nobody agrees on the rules of what we call victory. So it could be a goal, or it could be a ball going out of the park, or like nobody actually agrees what is the goal. So therefore, we can't actually design treatments for it because we understand the name of the game is aging, but we have no rule set. We have no markers for understanding what is success, what is partial success. Um, it's yeah, it's yeah, you buying a ticket to see aging being solved, but it's a mixture of every sport that you have ever played, and you have no idea what is going on. Every sport that you've ever known. So what I mean by that is that over the next few years, uh, what I try to, well, I'm trying to help people do is to organize uh, a proper metric or a set of proper metrics that we can agree on called biomarkers of aging. Um, which is trying to look at do we agree this and this and this causes aging as directed by the Hallmarks of Aging paper? Can we actually accurately measure it? If so, let's go and develop drugs and treatments so that we can tackle those things. Some things we can measure and we really know is causes aging in humans. Others we kind of sort of know, and others yet we really don't understand very well as to how to measure it.
And of
So
course,
once we are able to measure it, then we can actually design treatments for it. And sooner we do that, sooner we can get into human trials.
it's always difficult to tease out. Sometimes, if we're measuring an epiphenomenon versus measuring, the causative agent in a process, um, there's been a particularly big problem with neurodegeneration research where there's lots of weird protein bundles and tangles that start forming, but whether they're just a side effect of the process, that might be useful diagnostically but not actually useful in treatment, or whether they're, the main baddie that we want to be getting rid of is still not fully agreed upon. So yeah, I think it's wonderful that you're getting into this foundational sort of defining the field before we run headlong and try to implement specific interventions for a very broad and very complex problem. Um, so yeah, I know you've got to shoot off imminently, But before you do, I just wanted to kind of announce that we'll be working together a bit and hopefully co-hosting with the Oxford University Scientific Society, which I think is the world's oldest undergraduate scientific society in the world. And which I used to be on the committee of back in my undergrad days, and they do some fantastic stuff. Actually, reminds me, uh, they've got way more viewers than me anyway, but nevertheless, here's their YouTube channel. You'll be seeing more stuff there in the future. They've got some really excellent talks in there going back years, but the rate of talks is going to be going up, I believe, and I'll be pitching in with hosting some of them. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and thank you very much for inviting me to get involved. And yeah, if you've got anyone like particularly you'd like to kind of enthuse about we've got coming up or anything like that, or are we keeping it under wraps for now?
Well, thanks, Laurie, for inviting me to chat. The no, we can certainly talk about who we have invited, but I mean, I don't think we have finalized the dates yet. But there'll be
Right.
lots of
Okay.
exciting people that'll be coming, and you're going to be joining the committee again, in case you didn't know that,
Cool.
sooner rather than
Works
later.
for me.
But before I go, I just wanted to plug. This is not my project. This is a project
Oh, please,
by
please.
people that I admire and friends. I just don't want to leave your audience with all the problems and no solution. I want to show you lifespan.io.
Oh, I haven't seen
It's a
this. This is
nonprofit.
cool.
Yeah. So it's hosted by people who do this in their spare time. But the technology is coming. You guys remember that I showed you at the bottom right hand corner that our maximal lifespan hasn't improved. These are all the companies and nonprofits that are working, and these are all the treatments that are coming that are targeting the individual various processes of Maria Blasco's paper showing the 9 hallmarks of aging. So I can minimize this so you can easily see it in one screen. But what you see here is the tireless work of the people who are at lifespan.io, who are tracking all of these for you, all of the companies that are coming out. So, for example, genomic instability, Chromadex seems to be having a program for genomic instability. You can see that many people are working on cellular senescence, some very famous companies, including people that are being funded by Jeff Bezos.
Mm.
Uh, Here, right here, is Unity Biotechnology, and you can see what stage of drug development they're in. Laurie will explain to you if you don't already know what phase one, phase two, phase three are, and preclinical or preclinical in vivo. Laurie knows these in detail, of course,
Yeah.
because he's at the Nuffield Clinical Center. So yeah, so there is hope, and it's already happening.
Mm.
We just need to do much better work as to how we standardize, and this pipeline should be infinitely large.
Very cool. Well, yeah, that's lifespan.io, was it? Sorry?
Yes.
Lifespan.io.
Rejuvenation Roadmap by
Cool.
lifespan.io.
I'm gonna say
It
that
is not
myself.
my project, but I just wanted to share it because I think they're doing excellent work.
Well, thank you very much. That's very cool. And well, I was about to say all my viewers, both of my viewers. I have two currently live, but I usually get a fair more on the YouTube rewatches, and I'll certainly be posting this. So thanks very much, and I will. Well, I'll see you pretty soon, but hopefully my viewers will see you in the not too distant future too.
Thank you, Laurie.
All right, have
Thank
a
you,
good
everyone.
evening.